surrounded with magical people in our uh, evolution. I mean, in the what was I guess the late '80s, early '90s.
Mhm.
Um, Magically minded people are often, if they're magically minded, aware of self talk, which is how you refer to yourself. So if you refer to yourself negatively, it reinforces sort of a pattern of behavior, which is often self destructive. Um, Undermining your successes. And as magically minded people, we want to build our magical life. So this is, in accordance to how people may use a vision board, or they may use positive affirmations um, in the mirror every day. And affirmations, sometimes we would giggle at, or laugh at, because it's a self-defense mechanism for saying something very positive about yourself, which most people can't take seriously, um, because it's um, very awkward, especially in our modern society. Um, so we look in the mirror at the beginning of our day and say something very positive, like, "You're a beautiful person who's very capable, um, who is able to love others and to accept and receive love." Then there's like this knee jerk reaction, where our critical mind, our negative critical mind, will kind of step in and sort of undermine those positive and wonderful things that we may say to ourselves. Children are also very good examples because they're are sponges, and they will just replicate all of your self-talk if you hang out with them long enough. So you'll begin to see a lot of your own patterns of behavior. So um, it is very good to um, change these if you want to live sort of a full life, um, a positive life, in which that you are a loving person and capable of giving and receiving love, who has a confidence in themselves, who, um, we're not trying to skate away from realism here. We want to um, embrace realism, but we also want to build ourselves up, not break ourselves down. That's the kind of the short version.
Yes, the short version.
which
Uh,
which when you get older, uh, as I was about to say, as we'd begun to record, is that um, using a new camera today, and it's shooting from underneath a little bit, and it's higher resolution, higher definition, and so you and the angle is a little bit awkward. There's a reason why people endeavor and do their very best to shoot video and take pictures, not from a little bit below, but a little bit above or right on level. And that's because the image is a little more gratifying. So when we film from this angle, we may see some flaws and imperfections, um, but they to call them flaws or imperfections would be the wrong word. But we're try to retrain our brain to understand that they're not flaws and they're not imperfections. They are um, just who we are today. If they're like success stories, right? They're
mhm.
like, if you have a scar, that's not an imperfection. That's where I survived. So they um, are part of our story, and it's a part of the human condition. Sometimes, we have to accept things of the human condition that are sometimes difficult, but it's baked into paganism. We have the maiden, we have the mother, we have the crone, um, we have the father, right? We have the son, we have the king, Father, Son, Holy Ghost. Sometimes you'll hear, and other traditions. Um, so that life cycle is part of it, and the bridge between crone and maiden is resurrection, reincarnation, the beginning of a new life cycle. Yeah.
This is such a great time of year to talk about it. We're filming today at the end of January,
Yeah.
which means that one of my favorite holidays is coming up, which is Imbolc or Candlemas, depending on what
Yeah. In our
flavor you
tradition,
like
we
to.
always called it Candlemas.
Mhm.
It was also a good memory game for um, our mind. Bring candles to Candlemas and bring your bell to Beltane. Um, Imbolc is sort of very common today, that most people use.
Mhm.
Um, I believe Imbolc is sort of like mother's milk, or the ooze milk, the sheep, which is now hopefully giving birth to the lamb, and the milk comes in. So it's a time where um, it's still in the dark time of the year. It's still uh, a, a year, a part of the year which God may, the horn god may reign. But I was just reading in the notes on Candlemas.
Mhm.
Uh, we're still deep in the underworld, but we begin to feel the earth tug. It's a
Yeah.
time of conception, of preparation to begin the new cycle. The crone still rules, but is teaching the maiden, and is in the process of turning all over to her. That even though one or the other aspect seems to rule at a given time, all three aspects are continuously present throughout all the cycles. There's never a time when the goddess does not rule and is not on earth. And I thought that was a little great note. Um, Even though we may see this as the dark part of the dark of the year, um, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the last holiday in the dark part of the year.
Mhm. The next one is, I'm
Spring,
looking at this because
spring equinox.
yes, yes,
Now, it's
sure.
often still cold during the spring equinox, and we've been outside for our spring equinox several times, and it's rained and it's been cold, and sometimes we made it a short day for the weather. I
Yeah.
think we've even seen snow on the spring equinox, but um, everyone is happy to see the first signs of spring. And if you look hard enough, you will find signs of spring even now in Candlemas. We, as pagans, saw that in the animals that we domesticated and sheltered. So the sheep, the lamb, um, they would give birth, hopefully, right?
Mhm.
And then that was what they would see as the renewal of the life cycle. Often would see Bridget, but also images of pregnant women.
Mhm.
Yep. So
And one of so for the Greek people who like Greek mythology here, this is when obviously Persephone is still in the underworld with Hades after having eaten the pomegranate seeds. Um, and Walter Burkert, who wrote an amazing book called Greek Religion, which is out of print, but you can find copies. One of the best books I've read on Greek mythology. And he has this great expression, the corn comes from the dead. So I just love the image of that because, you know, you bury your dead in the earth, but the earth is what
Yeah.
ultimately feeds us and transforms from
Yeah.
that underworld back into fecundity, if you will.
Yes, that's where we get the moniker tree hugging dirt worshippers. So, but the dirt, I mean, what is dirt? So, it's a great question, but dirt is the dead matter that was sort of above that falls down. I mean, it does also have there's stone, there's sand, so there is that sort of mineral, but it is also all the dead plant matter, all of the dead insect matter, all of you know all of that which was alive that is now dead, and all of course, waste matter, manure, which made great fertilizer.
Yeah.
So that's part of the life cycle. That is, so when you talk about sustainable farming and organic farming, those are some of the techniques that they would use to replenish the soil.
Mhm. Exactly. And, you know, on a sort of on an everyday level, this is the time of year when I really like to look at seed catalogs and I plan out my garden. And,
True.
you know, I don't have a huge garden, and I've also lived in places where I didn't have a garden at all. So I used,
Yeah.
you know, a container garden on a balcony or by a window. So you get out your seed catalogs and you kind of plant what you want to grow that year. And you can also do that in your life. To
Yes.
sort of look at the year ahead and see the glimmerings of life of what you may have.
Yeah. Depending on where you live,
Mhm,
this might be a good time to actually germinate the seeds. I know
mhm.
that for some people it may seem a bit early, but depending on where you live, in sometimes you have to get it to a certain height indoors before it will survive outdoors.
So
So
true.
yeah.
Yeah. And for our um, friends who are on the other side of the equator,
Yes. That's right.
you know the drill.
The Australians, yeah, they are. I have a cousin that lives there, so they'll share pictures in the middle of winter. It's not winter there; it is summer,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's uh, those pictures are great. They're amazing. You know, they're all like, here I am in my backyard in Australia. At the beach. You know, so
And that kind of harkens back to obviously the tradition that we follow is sort of that um, Celtic, British Isles, Northern European
yeah,
heritage. So we're aligned, of course, with this set of seasons. And
yeah,
you know, right now a lot of people are including me are into things being cozy, and I feel like this is the coziest holiday. It's
yes,
you know, you do have your candles and you're kind of like snuggled in with your seed catalogs or whatever else it is.
yes. And
That
there's just the days are longer,
Mhm.
so there's a little more sunshine. Um, and it is a holiday that sometimes we would get together for,
Mhm.
but it is probably the holiday that was most likely to be celebrated by yourself or just with your family. So not the most socially forward of holidays.
Mhm.
Um, but again, we would typically burn towards our visions and our goal and our worship red and white candles. Uh, red and white candles would be good for um, white's good for purity, sort of the blank slate, if you will. Purification, purification rituals are also popular. Sort of the spring cleaning mentality, maybe mixed with a little cabin fever. Red for the goddess, uh, life, birth, the gestation in the womb, the willpower to make it through the dark holidays.
Yes.
Yeah. Nature themes. Now, nature themes always people kind of laugh because some of these are sort of outside of what is in season. Roses, carnations, right?
Strawberries.
Those are modern. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Strawberries, apples. And the apples are seasonal in the sense that they were harvested. And if you put your apples, in a cold cellar basement that didn't freeze, they're going to stay good for a long time. And people had apples throughout the winter to keep them alive.
And I'm going to interrupt you here for a second and talk about the difference between like heritage apples and modern apples. Because the apples that we're talking about that have, come to us and are, the teachings and the things that were handed down, they were not the modern varieties of apples, which notoriously don't stay fresh as long. They don't have the shelf life like the hardy varieties that we find. I think about the gentleman whose life's work was to go out and find heritage apples that had been lost to time.
I
Because
found one as a kid, and then they called it a crab apple. And it did not taste good at all.
um, so I tried to do that this year. I tried to pull some apples and I saved them in my refrigerator, and I can assure you they did not make it.
No.
I
Yeah.
pulled out some wrinkly, sad-looking apples in December and decided that it was not going to happen.
Right. I think this is where our ancestors made applesauce.
Oh, good point. Good point.
Yeah.
Or
So,
dried apples. They
yeah,
were
dried
drying themselves
apples.
in my situation. Yeah.
Yeah. Save your seeds, I would guess. But there's a lot of methods of canning and preservation, and absolutely those things have been practiced for a long time. They have evolved with us, just like our domesticated animals have evolved with us, and our vegetables have evolved with us. We have been changing and altering our environment for so long, hundreds of thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
But we are no match for Mother Nature herself, who can, uh, sometimes give us years of darkness with no sunlight, and yeah, that's going to change the landscape a lot. But as we do, and a lot of life forms do this, they transform their environment. Plants transformed our environment tremendously when they evolved to, start sucking up CO2,
Yes.
pumping out oxygen. So there are some amazing things have happened over the timeline, but we've, as humans, have been manipulating things that grow around us, as well as ourselves, and this might be part of how a lot of our tradition was born. Yeah, which you have to step backward and think about sometimes, going from a hunter gatherer to a farmer. And probably back and forth a few times
Mhm.
in our evolution, which is right there with the goddess and the god, I think. Yeah. Oh, so it is the festival of the goddess. Bridget certainly is very prominent in honoring the goddess, who later became a Saint Bridget.
Mhm.
Um, you will see her often with the lamb, and you will see her often with a anvil. She was also a goddess of the forge. Um, Again, that is part of the red of the holiday and the generation of life. Um, the modern day equivalents would be Groundhog's Day and Valentine's Day. So,
Mhm.
where red and white certainly come forward, and all aspects of love, I'd say.
So, do you have a show and tell?
I do Bridget's Cross. This My wife made this for me right before filming, and she asked me what color, and I was like, red. Red's traditional, and I was like, oh, no, purple. I like purple. So, uh, so, um, so making these is traditional this time of year. Often made from um, wheat, but you can also make them from pipe cleaners, um, and you can make them from corn husks. So that's sort of the wheat would be traditional. The corn husk would be in our New World, uh, newer traditions of honoring Bridget. Um, it is also known as a wives' feast in England. So there were some sort of adaptations and a lot of pagan traditions that were sort of pulled into Christendom. So we often will look for the modern holiday equivalents and what they're doing on that holiday. So if it's a feast or a festival that honors the Virgin Mary, Saint Bridget, that may have a older and longer history. So, um, yeah, that's a little bit about Candlemas. So, breathing. Our emotions affect our breathing. When we are in a highly emotional state, we tend to breathe shallowly and rapidly. When relaxed and at ease, our breathing is much slower. The aim of this exercise is to consciously increase the use of our lungs without undue physical strain. None of us really, in the modern world, perhaps, breathe properly. The majority only use the upper part of their lungs. Um, in the city and the urban areas with air pollution and cigarette smoking, our lungs become contaminated because we do not use them in the proper way. Improper breathing shortens your lifespan. Breath. So if you spend a little time each day doing breathing exercises, you will revitalize and bring elasticity to your lungs, and thus extending their life as well as your own. Assume a comfortable seated position, preferably in a straight backed chair. The book will have you do what they do in yoga a bit. I'll stick to the book for a second. I'm going to come back to some other breathing. Close your right nostril with the thumb of your right hand and breathe slowly and completely through the left nostril. This is what we would call the moon breath. Exhale to the count of 20 and inhale through the same nostril to the count of 10. Now, to start off, you may want to use some lower numbers. So you want to use numbers. The number isn't so important as it is that you are still comfortable, that you're not overextending yourself. Continue this exercise for 3 or 4 minutes. Concentrate completely on your breathing process. Do not let any other thoughts intrude or break your concentration. Be aware only of the conscious act of exhaling and inhaling. Once you've achieved this rhythmic breathing through the left nostril, then practice breathing through both nostrils on a slow 1, 2, 3, 4 count. And hold for 4. Exhale for 4. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Do not strain to breathe deeply. Allow for some patience and some time. It may be that you have breathed shallowly all of your life, and it will take time and patience and practice to re-educate your lungs. Be consistent in your daily exercise, and you will be breathing rhythmically and naturally sooner than you think. Oxygen is the breath of life. It feeds and stimulates the brain, purifies the blood, and works myriad other physical wonders. Once rhythmic breathing is established, you will find that your mind can have a tendency to wander. To prevent this, lead your mind gently back to the work at hand by mentally affirming that as you inhale, you are breathing in light, peace, and love. While you exhale, you are breathing out tension and negativity and sickness. They say here, do not combine this breathing exercise with any other breathing exercise. Keep it simple, work daily, and you will progress rapidly. So, it may be easiest to start with the box breathing. That is using both nostrils. Inhale on the count of 4. Hold for 4. And exhale for 4. So when you have the hold of 4, breathe in for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, then it's 4 fours. And that's where they get the name box breathing from, which is, I guess, a little bit modern. It is one of the tools that they'll associate with a greater nitric oxide production in the body. You can also sort of pay attention to how you breathe when you walk. I've tried to do this a little bit. It is hard for me to breathe through my nose when I'm walking. Sometimes the pace is a little too great. But if you can, it's supposed to be a very healthy practice, sort of combining disciplines, if you will. I've had a lot of students have a great success doing the breathing exercises before their meditation exercise. So that might be a nice step, to do the breathing exercises, then do the meditation exercises, because the breathing will sort of reset your whole body. Very good to relieve tension. It's very good in the middle of your day. If you can go somewhere or be someplace where you can practice the breathing exercises just for Maybe you don't even need a few minutes, maybe less than that, but it gives the little chance for your brain to take a break.
Mhm.
So take a deep breath and just exhale slowly, right? And that's where we begin to sort of make changes in our body, where we can change our heart rate even, right? So that's breathing, as is in our Book of Shadows. Um, if you are liking what you're hearing, don't forget to like and subscribe.
We appreciate you.
Absolutely.
So from breathing, our next teaching module is reverse meditation. So I'll just dive in and then we'll talk about that a little more afterwards, like we did with breathing. So, reverse meditation. Each evening, when you retire for the night, review all the events of the day in reverse. Start with the last thing you said or did prior to going to bed. Then proceed event by event until you arrive at the first thing you did or said when you got up in the morning. As you recall each event, look at it objectively, as though it were a completely impersonal record. Consider individually the results of each act, thought, or word, and then try to analyze why these thoughts and or emotions were the cause of particular events. Evaluate each separate event in this manner until you have arrived at the day's beginning. This exercise is very, very important. First of all, it helps train the mind in another time sequence. Second, it helps one to see the errors in their everyday conduct, as well as putting a check rein on the false ego. These two very important factors are the beginning of forging yourself into a working magical tool. You will be as effective as you are conscientious. Don't become discouraged if you fall asleep long before you reach the first event of the day. It may take weeks or even months before your ego lets you achieve success. As you progress with this facet of tool development, you will also find that these meditation periods bring a release from inner tensions, as well as aiding one in coping with one's everyday problems. It will also help develop your faculty for past life recall and help you trace the hidden or forgotten resentments of childhood, which psychologically impede your mental, spiritual, and physical growth. Reverse meditation.
Excellent. That was word for word what I have in what I have written by hand.
By hand, your hand of right.
My hand of right.
Hand of right.
Yeah, and
WRITE.
yes, yes, and RITE occasionally. So we're coming to that point where we are looking at ourselves as our magical tool that we are developing. And there is more to come, and we can't wait to share that with you.